Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast. It's very nice to be here. So thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We will be covering Leverkusen breaking the record and moving on in the Europa League final. Todd Boehly's support of Pochettino in that weird press conference. We'll address that. Talk about Pep Guardiola and whether or not he is overrated. Talk about Bayern's elimination and whether or not the manager/players were to blame or the referees had more to do with it. And please make sure you stick around for later in the show, where I'll be giving you my thoughts on the transfer talk going on right now. Verts potentially to Madrid, Osimhen to Chelsea. There's a little bit of transfer talk going into the summer. So before we start off, I'd like to ask you to like and follow the show. We get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the Tips and Donations link at gsmcpodcast.net, as you can see on the screen, with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. We have to start off with Leverkusen. They break the record. They reach the Europa League final. They entered this game up 2-0. They entered this game up 2-0 after, going to the Stadio Olimpico, a very tough environment. They won the game 2-0. So they're coming home and they're defending the lead. And not everything goes smooth sailing for them. They go down 2-0. There is 2-2 in aggregate. They find the breakthrough through a goalkeeping mistake on goal. And then they get the final minute equalizer that keeps up their win streak to move on to the Europa League final, where they'll be facing Atalanta, who defeated Marseille, winning 4-2 on aggregate. Leverkusen won 4-2 on aggregate. Atalanta wins 4-1 on aggregate against Marseille. Leverkusen, they also reached the German Cup final, so they have an opportunity now to chase a treble with the German Cup final, the DFB Pokal, and then they also have the Europa League final. They've won the Bundesliga. They're undefeated. They haven't lost a single game all season. 49 games unbeaten streak. Not a single game lost all season. Unbelievable. Are they really gonna go invincible in all competitions? That will be one heck of an achievement. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. They have 40 wins in their unbeaten run. And then it's just great. It's amazing. This is going to be their third European final that Leverkusen played. They also, for a continental title, they also lifted the UEFA Cup in 1998, and they lost the Champions League showpiece in 2002. Roma did well to get back into the game. I mean, everything was against them, being down 2-0. They had the experience of Paredes knocking down 2 penalties, and they did well to, climbing the mountain that they had to climb. And they were very, very composed. But Leverkusen, it just seemed like Leverkusen, as soon as the second goal in, they started to get a foot in the match. They played a nice possession style system. They didn't panic. They kept going side to side, 1-2, 1-2. They were able to get that breakthrough. And then it becomes a tricky situation. It's 2-1. You're down 2-1 technically. So this is technically, it will still go as a loss, even though the aggregate, it's 3. At this point, it's 3-2. You're in a point where you're saying we have a lead that we need to defend. We don't want to take this to extra time. But you also have this record, this unbelievable feat that you try to chase. So you're kind of caught in the crossfires, like whether or not we should go for this, whether or not we should go for this goal, whether or not we should just stay defending and just see out this result and move on to the Europa League final and forget the record and all that. And we were watching it, and it just seemed like it's Leverkusen, or because Leverkusen, I mean, the late goals that they've scored this season is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they've literally been called Leverkusen because of the last minute goals, not just to win games but to equalize. When you look at, they scored a 94th minute goal against Bayern, a 94th minute against Karabakh, a 94th minute against Augsburg, 91 versus Leipzig, 91 versus Stuttgart, 92 versus Karabakh again, 93 and 97 versus Karabakh again, 91 versus Hoffenheim, 97 plus Dortmund, 97 plus Stuttgart, 97 plus Roma. It's unbelievable the amount of goals scored within stoppage time to either win them 3 points or win them a point. And the celebrations you saw against Dortmund whenever they scored that last minute goal. Keep in mind, this is a Leverkusen team. They already clinched the Bundesliga at that point. This goal is strictly to keep up this record, to keep up the unbeaten streak. They equalized in the last minute, and the way all the substitutes run on the pitch, even Xabi Alonso runs on the pitch, it's just amazing. Xabi Alonso, by the way, I just love his body language as a manager. Certain times he celebrates, certain times he just goes a little fist bump, certain times no celebration. I love the way he just seems composed on the sideline. Everything about Xabi Alonso, just screams like a world-class manager. He just looks so professional. And the football that they play, the counter-pressing, they winning the ball high, but then playing a nice possession-based football. I love the way Leverkusen play. And the way that they're 49 game unbeaten run is an unbelievable achievement. And I can't believe it. I can't grasp it in my head. And it makes me think, what if Bayer Leverkusen were in the Champions League this year? Man, oh man. The way that they get production when it comes to goals and assists from their fullbacks, Grimaldo and Frimpong, it just reminds me of Robertson and Trent a few years ago. But this is a little bit different because Grimaldo and Frimpong, they're getting the goals in the back of the net. Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, in terms of creation, in terms of ability to play, put in crosses and all that, can't touch them. They're the best I've seen when it comes to assisting, crossing, all that. But Trent had a few goals in him with set pieces, sometimes making a late run in the box, shooting a shot. But Andy Robertson, he doesn't give you any goals. That's not really part of his game. But Frimpong and Grimaldo, the capacity that they have to get into the box, their ability to play on the counter, to get into the box, to score goals, and to provide assists is phenomenal. Xhaka provides great complementary to Florian Wirtz, who is able to pick up the ball, beat a man, open up space for his teammates, play a genius ball, play in one of his strikers, or play the ball out to one of his fullbacks and completely shift the defense. For me, it's amazing the way. The way that they play. I love the way that they're. I love how they don't panic, even in those situations when they were down. Even when they're down, all these late games, they still keep it composed. They still trust in the manager. They still play the football that they play always. They're not scared. And that's what I love about them. It's a sign of a brilliant coach team. At the end of the day, whenever this pressure's on, whenever you're down late and you're able to still stay composed, stay relaxed, play the football the manager wants you to play, it's a sign of well coaching. It's a sign of clutchness, and that's what this team is very, very clutch. They have that clutch gene. We don't really use a clutch argument when it comes to soccer, because it's not something people use when we talk about basketball, football, especially basketball. This guy has a clutch gene. This guy, whenever you're down, whenever it's fourth down, you want to go to who do you go? Do you want to go to Antonio Brown or whatever? They say he's the clutch guy, or Michael Jordan, the clutch killer. You don't really say that when it comes to soccer, but this Bayer Leverkusen team, they are a clutch team. They are a very, very clutch team, and they do go on. And keep in mind, they don't have that many games left. They have the cup final, the DFB Cup Pokal final against I believe Kaiserslautern, if I'm saying it right. They have that. Then they have the Europa League final against Atalanta, and then other than that, they have 2 games left in Bundesliga. We are looking at a very, very good chance. Obviously, it's 2 finals, and anything can happen in the 4 finals. But you're telling me 4 games for them to go unbeaten? You're looking at a very, very good chance to happen, and that got to be one of the most remarkable results. Maybe a best single season in a very, very long time. Obviously, when you win a treble like the way City did, that's also a very big season just because of the Champions League element. But this is sort of a weaker treble, but finishing unbeaten, it's up there with one of the top seasons I've seen a club ever do. And if they're able to, we're going to talk later. We're going to do transfer talks later, talking about the situation with Florian Wirtz potentially. But if they're able to retain their guys, why can't they make a run in next year's Champions League? Why can't they make a run in next year's Champions League? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. We're going to go to break shortly. After the break, though, stay tuned because we're going to talk about Todd Boehly and his support for Mauricio Pochettino and on whether or not I believe it's justified. So stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crowd.
Before the break, we discussed Leverkusen and their amazing run that they're on. Before we move on to the next segment, I just wanted to remind y'all that you get a lot of tips and donations. And let me put on the graphic real quick. But yeah, we get a lot of tips and donations and a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So please ensure that your question gets read on air. Please use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. Just put your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and it also really helps the show. So that again, the link is at gsmcpodcast.net. We gotta move on. Todd Boehly support of Pochettino, whether or not I believe this support is justified. Todd Boehly, he went on one of those, rich people conferences that these big owners go on. I believe it was at like something in LA. And he had some comments that might rub people the wrong way, talking about how the football has been getting better and all that, and how the narrative has changed really quickly and all that. Honestly, look, I'm going to be honest, as a Chelsea fan, I don't want to hear that right now, especially because we're on the back. We finished in the bottom 10 last year. We're at 7th. We're at 7th. This is nothing to be proud of. We just lost to Arsenal 5-0 like 3-4 games ago. It's very recency biased based on what happened the last two games. The last 2 games. The way in coming out with these sort of comments, talking about how this is exactly how he planned it. What sometimes it's just good to leave the footballing aspect of it to the football guys, and I don't want to say just be a checkbook, but essentially just be a checkbook and just keep your mouth shut, because nothing he says really helps Chelsea. Nothing he says is gonna benefit Chelsea in the long run. Just worry about keep everything that you need to say football-wise behind the doors. That's all I'm going to say. But the main part about it was his support of Pochettino. He support Pochettino. He's backing him through and through. He's definitely going to be back next season. Let's be realistic. And honestly, he can't fire. This is going to be like the fourth manager he's fired or something. So I'm going to discuss whether or not I believe it's justified. And look, I'm on both sides. You know, there was times earlier in this year I was like, Pochettino out, Pochettino out, Pochettino out, Pochettino out. And it does create a little bit of a divide amongst the club between the people who want Pochettino in and want Pochettino out. And I can see both sides to it. You know, this is a team, very, very young, youthful team that's gone through a lot of injuries. And there has been some improvement from Chelsea when you look from last year. Defensively, we leak way too many goals. 59 goals allowed. That's a joke for Chelsea. 59 goals allowed. That's more than a goal a game. That's approaching 2 goals a game. So that's bad. But we've scored 70 goals this season, which is remarkable. Honestly, when you look at last season, we've scored a remarkable 38 goals in 38 games. 38 goals in 38 games. Now that was honestly a like beyond embarrassing. It's a disgrace to Chelsea Football Club scoring 38 goals in 38 games. 1 goal a game, that's unbelievable. This year we scored 70 goals, and even without a real number 9 that's really clinical. You know, Nicholas Jackson came in, but he's missed so many opportunities. Some of the opportunities he missed, it just makes me think, wow, this Chelsea team could really be approaching that 80-85 goal mark. And you see, we scored 70 goals. You know, Man City, Liverpool, 87-81, Arsenal, 88. And we've missed a lot of big chances too. So, and if you compare this to like a Villa who's in 4th place, they scored 73 goals. But, you know, they've been better this season, let's just be honest. But what I'm saying regarding Chelsea is, and Pochettino is, at least like with Ten Hag and United, you don't see a really pattern of play. With Chelsea, I see a pattern of play that we're trying to play. We're trying to play the Pochettino Tottenham way. I can see what we're trying to do with getting playing high pressing, winning the ball high, playing very energetic football, playing with a lot of pace, heavy pace, fast flowing football. So I see what we're trying to do. We have pressing. We got workhorses in there. I see what Pochettino is trying to do, and I see the pattern of play, and I like how we're playing the system no matter what, like whether or not we're going to Man City or this or that. Like, I'll give you an example. We went to Manchester United, we played the same system that we play all year, and we died by it, like completely died by it. But then we play Everton, and we win 6-0. So I like the fact that there's a pattern of play, and there's a philosophy that Pochettino is trying to establish here. And he's trying to develop these young players. So that is the part where I think that is a good a reason for him to stay. Like, that's a pro. But the cons, there's been some games this season where you're just like, what is this decision made? Let me give you an example. Let's go to the EFL Cup final. You know, we're dominating through the end of extra time. Liverpool is a very injured Liverpool team. We are a very youthful team too. It's a very injured Liverpool team. And they're bringing in guys from the academy, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. They have like 4 or 5 19-year-olds on extra time. And we're entering extra time. I think it was 1-1 at this period. And for some reason, we observe and we allow the pressure to come on us in extra time when we should have been the one being the protagonist and attacking the youngsters and giving them, like, we gave them time on the ball. We didn't pressure them. We didn't do nothing. And it just seemed like, we're allowing them to, like, ease into extra time when we should have been the protagonist. We should have made those kids, suffocated them. We didn't do none of that. In fact, they're the ones that put pressure on us because we sat back and allowed them to. Why Pochettino went into that extra time deciding to play a little bit more restrictive is beyond me. So there's been certain times throughout the season where you just look at Pochettino and you be like, what? What is this? And also, we have to be honest, Pochettino, he's a great man. He had a good run at Tottenham, developing those players, playing good football, or developing at Southampton young players, and then playing some good football at Tottenham. But he never really got Tottenham over the top in terms of trophies. I think Pochettino, if he comes in right now, and we allow him to stay, maybe he's able to progressively build up this Chelsea young team and get them to playing good football. But is he the manager to take us to the top and win us Premier Leagues and win us Champions Leagues in the top level? For me, I don't think so. I don't think he has that. I don't think he has that capabilities. You saw he went to PSG. He couldn't lift them over the top. Thomas Tuchel beforehand took that PSG team to the final. He couldn't reach past the semifinal. He hasn't been able to take none of these teams over the top that he's been at to win trophies. He did win a Mickey Mouse. I hate to say a Mickey Mouse trophy at PSG, but he hasn't had a real trophy, in his CV, in my opinion. So that's another reason that, and is that a reason to sack a manager? Or you can argue that's looking too far ahead, but for me, I'm looking at it like next season, you bring in a few experience. Why can't Chelsea start challenging for a few trophies, Why can't you? And I think that the EFL Cup final, the way that went down, I think we saw the Pochettino's lack of ability to understand what's required in these moments. And yes, I have to give him credit. He took a Tottenham team to a final. Yes, a Champions League final. Yes, that did happen. But did he win the final? No, he did not win the final. So do I think the thing is just support of Pochettino is justified? Yeah, I mean, as an owner, he has a direction that he's trying to go, and Chelsea have a direction that they're trying to go. So I believe it's justified. But is this the manager to take us over the top? I honestly don't think so. I honestly don't think so. But it's important for entering the summer. It's important Pochettino doesn't become a puppet of the board and just take on the players that he wants. I think it's important for Pochettino to start going into the board and start convincing players, some of his players that he wants, some players that fits the system he wants, and more experience into the team. Because if they keep going with this young approach of signing these 19, 20-year-olds from Brazil or signing this gem, you can't have all these young guys. You need some sort of experience in this team, especially because Pochettino, he's going to need to start winning next season. So Pochettino needs to go into the board, need to get some experience in. He needs to handpick the players, or players that he like. Maybe he gives them options of players that he likes, but he definitely has to be in the room, because at the end of the day, next season, this is Chelsea Football Club. Yes, this is under new ownership, but this is, next season, there's going to be pressure on him to get results. And I think he'll rather live and die by the players that he wants in. Like the thing was Ten Hag is the one that wanted to pay 100 million for Anthony, that wanted to bring in Casemiro and Eriksen just to replace them again a year later with Mason Mount and Sofiane Amrabat, who also were not even good enough replacements. I mean, these are guys that Erik Ten Hag wanted, and they're not doing the job. So that's really nailing the coffin for him, But Pochettino, he hasn't even had that opportunity to really bring in the players he wanted. He's kind of observing the players that this board, this system that this board is trying to build. But yes, we're going to take a short break. After the break, though, I'd like y'all to stay tuned, because I'm going to discuss, this is going to be a big one. Is Pep Guardiola overrated? Okay, that's what I'm going to discuss. So, after the break.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we discussed Todd Boehly and his support of Pochettino, whether or not it's justified. But we are gonna move on to a topic that's gonna get a lot of controversy. I'm gonna ask it: is Pep Guardiola overrated? And look, before I go into my opinion, which it's my opinion, guys, I want to let y'all know what made me spark me to talk about this. So Graham Souness came out in a podcast. Graham Souness, Liverpool legend, came out in a podcast, and he essentially said Pep Guardiola is not a genius manager. He just happens to have the most money, or let's afraid that the teams that he's on happen to have a lot of money and the best players. And look, I think there's some truth in that, definitely. When you look at his career, from front to bottom, he's never finished below first and second place. So that's just phenomenal. He's a brilliant manager with a brilliant system that play brilliant football. You can't argue that. He plays, out of all these managers, they play the most appealing football, possession-paced, very tiki-taka. He kind of made tiki-taka, the new modern form of tiki-taka, extended from what Johan Cruyff really started. And then he came into Barcelona after Rijkaard, and then observed the players from La Masia and created that juggernaut of that Barcelona team. Then he took his philosophy and kind of revolutionized German football. And then he did the same with coming to England and completely take over the Premier League, winning all the Premier Leagues that he's won, winning a treble, and kind of revolutionized the way English Premier League football is looked at. So, look, Pep Guardiola, he's a very, very good coach. But in my opinion, the amount of players and talent that he's had, there's some other managers that in my opinion, I'll take over them, because I think that they didn't do more than him, but they did more with less. Like, for an example, a Jurgen Klopp, who Pep Guardiola says has probably been my biggest rival. A Jurgen Klopp, for me, I don't have the exact numbers with net spend and all that. Maybe that's bad. I didn't come in and do my research. But when you look at the amount of players that City are able to bring in, just, in his first season, he looked at it, he's like, oh, this is not good enough. And he brought in 4 fullbacks. It's just the amount of players that they were able to bring in through his time, it's ridiculous. And he has $100 million players like Jack Grealish, who spent most of the first season on the bench, who still are struggling really to get in this season now, and we're almost 2-3 seasons later. When you look at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp never had those kind of signings, never had those kind of, he had he brought in, Salah, Alisson. Okay, well, he brought in Salah a little bit earlier, which was Salah was kind of he turned out to be great at Liverpool. He didn't come in for a ridiculous fee, but he did the 2 big signings they did, and this is the year that they reached the Champions League final. Or no, well, they did 2 signings, but they did Van Dijk January, and then they bought Alisson. So Alisson wasn't there for the first Champions League final, but the 2 big signings that they did was Virgil van Dijk and Alisson. But when you look at it, that's kind of when you look at the net spend, it came from selling a brilliant player in Coutinho. So, but when it comes to pure transfer value, the amount Pep Guardiola had at Man City compared to Jurgen Klopp is nowhere near. In Jurgen Klopp, they also play beautiful attacking gegenpress football, heavy metal football, with not having the amount of money that Pep Guardiola had at Man City, and the accomplishments, obviously. And if you look at it, the point totals, I mean, Liverpool were there a lot. It came down to the final day for like 2 or 3 Premier League seasons that it could have really went the other way. And easily went the other way for Liverpool on Liverpool's behalf when you look at those 2 seasons. And then when you look purely at the trophies, you know, you have a few Super Cups and EFL Cups and FA Cup, but, you know, Jurgen Klopp, out of the big trophies, he won a Premier League and a Champions League, which is nowhere near as much as Pep Guardiola. But I just feel like the money was the creation of that gap. I feel like if you put Jurgen Klopp and you give him the amount of money that Manchester City has, oh my goodness. And if you reverse Pep Guardiola on Liverpool, I don't see anywhere near the same success. And Pep Guardiola, he's very measured with choosing his destinations. You know, he's looking. Whenever he started off at Barcelona, that, in my opinion, that was his biggest job. Like, that's his most, like, brilliant job that he's done. The way he brought in these youngsters, these integrated people from La Masia, you know, the Xavi, the Iniestas, the Messis. They're all very, very talented players. Don't get me wrong, they're all very, very talented players, but they're kind of unseasoned. And Pep Guardiola brought his system to tiki-taka up to them, and he integrated them, and he got them playing brilliant football. He won a treble with them. And so for me, what he did at Barcelona is his biggest achievement, just because of the fact that it's a team that he kind of brought up. And then when I talk about him being clever in the way he chooses teams, he goes to Bayern Munich, and for me, he goes to the best team in Germany, who has the best players in Germany, and who just takes the best players off every other team and puts them on them. That's what they really do in Bayern when you look at the rest of the teams in Bundesliga, especially during that time period. So for me, what Pep Guardiola did there, you know, he won Bundesligas, he won every Bundesliga then, but he didn't have the success in Europe. So for me, that wasn't really that much of a successful stint, because, you know, winning Bundesligas and DFB Pokal, that's not the level. When we were talking about potential, you know, greatest managers. And then he goes to Man City, again, being clever with his decision making, knowing the amount of money and the amount of ability that they have to spend. Pep Guardiola has been really, really clever in the way he chose his teams and the way they choose teams to manage. And for me, when you look at pound to pound, another manager, for me, Jose Mourinho. You know, Jose Mourinho did so much more with so much less. Like, is Pep Guardiola capable of winning a Champions League with the Inter Milan and Porto teams that Jose Mourinho won with? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Jose Mourinho won a treble with Inter Milan. Inter Milan was, you know, a good team, but not a good. They had Schneider as a brilliant player. Could argue he should have won the Ballon d'Or that year. But, you know, their striker was Diego Milito. They had guys like Pandev playing serious minutes. I'm not trying to say these guys were like trash or anything. I'm just saying, you know, there's better teams. Defensively, they were very, very strong with Maicon, Materazzi, and so defensively, they were very, very strong. But going forward, you know, it wasn't the best of team. And Jose Mourinho, through his management, Jose Mourinho and Jurgen Klopp, they're able to make a sum of the parts better than what they are. I think Pep Guardiola is able to get this talented group and just make them an unstoppable force. And what he did at Man City, the levels, the consistency. You know, he also, the thing too is with Guardiola, he's a very good motivator. He's very good at keeping his players focused. You know, they'll never, you know, when you win all these Premier Leagues, eventually, you know, there seems like there might be like a loss of motivation. But you never see that with Man City. They're always on. And it's because of Pep Guardiola. It's because he won't allow that to happen. He's day in, day out in training. He won't allow. If he senses any of it, he'll ship you out. And he's a good manager. The way he, like, dealt with the Cancelo situation. Like, if you want, if you are becoming a problem, you're out. He is a brilliant manager for me, and he deserves all the credit, in my opinion. He deserves all the praise and all that. But is he a little bit overrated? I think so, because I think if other managers were able to have the money he had, they'll be able to be not just as successful. They'll be able to be very, very successful. But the main thing is, I don't think you can put Pep Guardiola in these other situations with lesser teams, because we've never seen it before. We've never even seen that before, too. I don't think, whether or not he's capable of, I don't know, but I don't think so, because we've never seen it before. We've seen these other managers get put in lesser situations and, elevate a team of the sum of their parts. And for me, that's why I will agree with the statement Pep Guardiola is overrated, because there's a lot of money spent on the teams that he's been on at Manchester City. A lot of money spent. And I would really like to put Mourinho and Jurgen Klopp in those kind of situations. And those are the two main ones that I would say, I'll take them over this guy because of, what they did with less. But he's still a brilliant manager. And not finishing below first or second is crazy. It's crazy. But you do remember, his first year at Man City was a little bit of a mess. They go home to Monaco, I believe, in the semi-final. In the Premier League, they finished second to Chelsea, but they were comfortably in second. They didn't push Chelsea at all. And it was a Chelsea team that was not the strongest title winners. They were still a very, very good team under Conte and all that. Again, that's another manager, Conte, who's done good with lesser teams, especially that Chelsea team, having Victor Moses and Marcus Alonso at fullback, at wingbacks. But is Pep Guardiola overrated? Yeah, for me, I'd have to say so. But he's still a top manager. He's obviously still a top manager. This is the end of this segment. Whenever I come back, I'm gonna be talking more about the Bayern Real Madrid game, and stay tuned for that after the short break.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed Pep Guardiola and whether or not he's overrated or not. But we move on to discuss more about the Bayern Munich Real Madrid game yesterday and whether or not the managers or players were more to blame, or the referee, whether or not it should be the referee or Bayern Munich itself, who's more to blame for this game. And before we go into that, I think it's fair to discuss the circumstances, the context of this, if you weren't watching, which you probably were. So yesterday, the referees, Real Madrid scored through Joselu to make it 2-1. Bayern Munich, they're on the attack. Last minute of the game, 90 plus 7 minutes in. Mazraoui, I forgot who played in from the long ball. It might have been Davis or something. Mazraoui heads down a long ball into De Ligt. De Ligt finishes home, but the referee intervened 2-3 seconds right before De Ligt hit that ball to blow the whistle because the referee flagged offsides. Now, we know in this modern era of football that we are in, if there's any sort of doubt that you may have whether or not this play should be offsides or not, do not raise your flag. And on top of that, the referee doubles down on that mistake with the assistant referee waving his flag, but also the main referee, he has it's his right to wave down that flag. He also makes the mistakes to blow his whistle. Play is rendered dead right before De Ligt scores a goal. We look back on it on video. We don't have exactly the lines because it never had the opportunity to go to VAR because the referee blew his whistle. But when you're looking at it from the human eye with the angles and photos that we see that Mazraoui, for me, he didn't look offsides. and as an assistant referee, there's two mistakes in that situation. As an assistant referee, you cannot, if there's any sort of a doubt, and you're looking at it and you're saying that, how can you be 100% certain he's offside in that situation? It's just a panic decision. Like, what is it? Because it's at Bernabeu? As a referee, you cannot raise your flag in that instance. You cannot. It's very, very clear. If there's any room for doubt, which is inarguable that there was room for doubt because it was very tight. If there's any room for doubt, you keep the flag down, you let the play finish, you raise your flag, and then you let VAR protect you if that's important. When you raise your flag there, okay, well, you raise your flag there, then it's up to the referee. So, because this is the double mistake compounded by the two referees for this to happen. So that referee makes a mistake, right? The assistant referee raising his flag. Now you're the middle referee in this situation. You see that it's tight. You see that it's tight. You see the knockdown happen. You also cannot blow your whistle there. You have to wave down that flag, let the play finish then. But at the end of the day, I will give the referee a little bit of sympathy. At the end of the day, he's thinking the AR thinks it's clearly offsides. The AR has a better point of view than the referees in the middle. I know this, I'm a referee. You know, it's hard to kind of see offsides whenever you're in the middle, especially if you're in a bad position. And you're just in that situation, you might be assuming the assistant referee thinks it's clearly offside. But you got to have some sort of eye. And you are the main man and boss at the end of the day. It is your decision. So he also compounds that mistake by blowing the whistle, and then it can't go to VAR. So it's a bad mistake by a good refereeing crew. But is that to blame, in my opinion? Look, Bayern, they had their chances to win. They had their chances to win even when they were up 1-0 with the amazing goal by Alphonso Davies. They had a few opportunities on the counter. They make one right ball, they're going in, and it's getting 2-0 and it's game over. And you're defending a 1-0 lead, and then your goalkeeper, one of the best goalkeepers of all time, makes a mistake that you never ever see him make. The biggest mistake of his career that I can remember. He fumbles the ball to Joselu, and then from then on, it's just like, it only seemed like there was going to be one winner. When we talk about the manager, also, the manager, 75th minute in, he makes substitutions to defend. He goes all in on the 1-0 lead, goes completely defensive, plays almost a 5-6 hybrid at the back, just putting all his cards in, just let's pull it out with the 1-0. And whenever you end up conceding, you're kind of doomed because you don't have any sort of outlet. You have no sort of way to relieve pressure. And, once they were able to, Real Madrid capitalize off that mistake, there was only going to be one real winner. So there's a lot of angles you could say whether or not the referee. First of all, the referee's huge mistake. You cannot make that mistake in those situations, but the referees are not to blame for Bayern's loss. The referees made a huge mistake and it cost Bayern, but the Bayern players and manager can't think that, because the Bayern manager made a mistake in going all in for the draw, which I could see his point of view why, it's Real Madrid, you're on the road. But at the end of the day, the same argument can be made. It is Real Madrid. This is what they do. They always come back. You have to have some sort of backup just in case. And going all in on trying to defend the lead is just, people will argue, irresponsible. But why, with 6 defenders back there, why is nobody pressed up on Vinicius, preventing him from taking on that shot that led to the first goal? Why are they losing the ball? Why are they constantly losing the ball within their own half when they're defending a lead or when it's drawn 1-1? The players made some big mistakes too. So, look, Bayern's elimination comes down to the manager and the players. The referee's a huge mistake and they cost Bayern, but they're not to blame. The Bayern's players and manager combination are to blame because they are the ones that lost this tie. They had every opportunity to not even allow the referee to even intervene with with them trying to chase that goal. And it's really a shame. But if you look at it within the 90 minutes, let's be real, Real Madrid were the better team. Real Madrid played the better football. Real Madrid had the better chances. But, Bayern were able to find that breakthrough. And whenever you cannot make you cannot leave the gasps of concentration that Bayern had defensively. And they lost the ball. Whenever they scored that first goal, Real Madrid ratcheted up the pressure on them, and they were not comfortable at all. Bayern Munich, they were losing the ball in very, very bad areas, and it just seemed like more and more and more is coming, and it seemed like they had a mountain to climb just to get into extra time, and they weren't able to climb that mountain. They weren't even able to climb that mountain because of how dominant Real Madrid were and throughout that stretch. But going back to the referee's decision, what could be done to prevent this? I mean, at the end of the day, the technology is brought in, and what can be done? The technology is brought in, and you're not even letting it reach the technology because you're making a mistake beforehand. And even sometimes when it reaches VAR, not happens as much in the Champions League, a lot in the Premier League. There's still mistakes that happen within VAR when you have 4 guys watching it at a screen that are not even in the stadium to be affected by the team. So, I don't know. I think officiating in general has been poor all year. And I think there's going to be some serious fundamental changes that need to be done when it comes to VAR, when it comes to just in general, because there's been a lot of mistakes that's happened all year. And it's really unacceptable for the amount of technology that we have. For these kind of mistakes to occur. I still got I had one last point I wanted to make. I'm blanking my mind for a second. I did want to go to the coaching thing too with Thomas Tuchel. So going all in on the draw, that was one thing that you could argue Thomas Tuchel shouldn't have done, bringing in Kim Min-jae 15 minutes in. And also, it didn't seem like at that period that Real Madrid were, at that point in time, after the goal, Real Madrid didn't crazy pressure Bayern. Whenever you took out Kane and brought on Choupo-Moting and you brought on Kim Min-jae and all that, and you started playing sitting back, that's when and started observing the pressure. That's when Real Madrid were really able to ratchet it up too. That's also something that I really criticize Thomas Tuchel for. And also, before the goal, from about the 45th to like 65th minute, I mean, Joshua Kimmich on that right-hand side was getting completely torched by Vinicius. Every time Real Madrid got the ball, they got the ball to Vinicius and said, go, go, go. And he was absolutely cooking Joshua Kimmich, and everything was going through Vinicius. And for me, another mistake I hold for Thomas Tuchel was for that 10, 15, 20-minute period, he didn't do nothing to help out Joshua Kimmich. He didn't do nothing to help out Joshua Kimmich. They were able to find that breakthrough on transition, which kind of helped them defensively, because with the goal and being able to score the goal and trying to kind of shifting the temperature around the stadium just naturally brought Vinicius less into the game. But he didn't do nothing to change it in that period. And then when he does change it in the 75th minute, it's a time that Real Madrid are not really, pressuring Bayern. They weren't really, they had that set piece opportunity where they, scored the disallowed goal. But, other than that, they weren't really pressuring for that period right after the goal. They weren't really pressuring Real Madrid, Bayern. So yeah, for me, definitely more blame goes to the manager and the players, but the referees still made a big mistake that cost Bayern a chance to, be in extra time. We're gonna go on a short break. When we come back, we're gonna be discussing our final talk. We're gonna do a little bit of transfer talk. Talk about some potential transfers that might happen this summer. Florian Wirtz to Real Madrid, Victor Osimhen to Chelsea. So stay tuned. It's time for transfer talk. As we get closer to the summer, and then once we get into the summer, this has kind of become like a almost a one every couple of days things, just discussing some of the transfer rumors and all that. There was a report that came out. We're gonna start off with the Florian Wirtz potentially to Madrid talk. Number one, any transfer that happens with Florian Wirtz, it's gonna look like it'll happen the summer of 2025. This summer, he's come out and said he doesn't want to leave. Xavi is also staying. It looks like Xavi staying is opening it up opportunity for Leverkusen to retain a lot of their stars and to kind of go at it again next year in the Champions League. So this is not going to happen this year, but next year, first of all, Florian Wirtz, he's played an amazing role in what Leverkusen has done right now. They're in the Europa League final, they're in the DFB Pokal final, and they're unbeaten all of this season, which is still unbelievable to say. He's a brilliant midfielder. He started off a little bit more as a defensive midfielder, playing a little bit more deeper, but he's transitioned into this brilliant attacking midfielder. He has good passing range. He has good ability on the ball. He has acceleration. He can drive past the player and then open up space for teammates by playing in a ball. He's very, very good on the ball, very technical. He has the capacity to go in the box and get a goal. He has a long shot on him. When you see the goal that he scored against against France. So I really, really like the player. He's a good player. He's going to be an expensive player. It's going to take, a number north like $150 million to sign a sort of player. That's what he's going to be, because he is a really minute player. He's young. And what impressed me is how he came off. He was injured for the World Cup and missed a lot of the season when he injured his ACL, and then he came back, and the way that he's came back has been very, very impressive for a young player. These kind of injuries, they can psychologically, torment a player, but it just shows a great of mental strength for him to be this young and to recover from this injury and to come back and play the way he has. For me, I think it'll be a good signing for Real Madrid. He won't be they're talking about a Kroos replacement. I think that's just because of the fact that he's German, because, Kroos is not similar. Kroos is much more of a deep line player, a very good, gifted, technical passer. Even though Wirtz, he does have that gift of being able to play the ball, he also has the ability with pace to drive past players, to get past a man and open up space for his teammates to play in the ball and behind, to move the ball from side to side, the capacity to get the ball get into the box and score a goal. He has a little bit more of his game than just a Toni Kroos, but Toni Kroos just does what he does very, very good. So he's not really a replacement for Toni Kroos, but he's a guy that can come in. I think he complements Bellingham really, really well. He can play, him, Bellingham, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, they all complement each other very, very well. They're all very, very talented players. When you're very, 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 very talented, it's easy to complement each other very well. And this will allow Jude Bellingham to play a little bit more of a deeper role that you see him played earlier with Dortmund, and he can take more of the front role, because I think Wirtz is better as an attacking midfielder than Bellingham, because he has the ability to drive past the player with pace. Bellingham does have a good goal record getting into the box and all that, but that's kind of a this season thing. I don't think he's going to be like a goal scorer all of his career. I just think he's like kind of filling in this season for the Real Madrid's lack of striker. But I think Wirtz and his ability, I think he'll be perfect for Real Madrid. Another talk that's been going on, Osimhen, Victor Osimhen. There's talks for him going to Chelsea for potential Osimhen Lukaku swap deal. That's maybe that's a potential rumor and all that, and then add on 90 million or something. Osimhen has at 25 years a reported release clause of 130 million. First of all, I want to discuss the fit for Chelsea. Well, Osimhen is a very, very good striker, very, very good clinical finisher. Aggressive. He's tall, so you can swing in a ball, and he'll be able to get on the end of it. He has an ability to finish with his head, with his feet. He has good control, good touch. I'm messing up what I'm saying. And this is a Chelsea team that's need a striker for, man. I mean, how long have we needed a striker? It's been so long. It's been so long how long Chelsea has needed a striker. So I think it is a good move when you look at the amount of chances Nicholas Jackson has missed this season. If we put in a guy like Osimhen and the amount of chances that we create, we just need that guy to I'm saying we. I'm a journalist now. I can't be saying we. But Chelsea, they just need that guy to get the ball into the back of the net, and he will do that at a breathtaking rate. He will score many goals for Chelsea. He will, he's not the guy. His back to goal play could be a little bit better. He is gifted, but it could be a little bit better. He's not right away. He's not going to be like a Kane who can drop into midfield and be like almost a 10, just like a 9. He doesn't have that in him yet. He's purely more of a number 9 now, but he still has a little bit of he still has quality, and he can develop into that sort of player. He really has the quality. I mean, when it comes to ability and all that, he has the ability, and we see it at Napoli, especially last season. But yeah, I think he'll come in. I think he'll be a good signing. It's also, whenever it comes to Chelsea and number 9s, it could always fail, because that's just how it works. With Chelsea and number 9s, they've had a few failures recently, but it could also become very, very good option. And then there's not much else other than going on. United eyeing Fulham center back Adarabioyo, and that really, we need to get more clarification on who's United's next manager gonna be before United start talking about which guy, because I feel like the next manager for Manchester United should bring in the players that he wants. I really don't like just managers simply having to observe a team with some players that they're not really that much familiar with. But yeah, that's the end for this transfer news today. I do want to say the Premier League title race is coming down to the wire. When you look at Arsenal, Man City, Arsenal currently first place, but they also Man City have a game in hand, up 1 point, and Man City take on Fulham on Saturday, while Arsenal take on I believe Arsenal today, they take on Manchester United at Old Trafford. That's always going to be a tough game with Manchester United at Old Trafford. So I am going to say this, with Man United having to take on United at Old Trafford, I think Man City, with only being point down with the game in hand, I think when we enter the final day, May 19th of the season, when both teams will be playing their respective last games, I think both teams will be playing in meaningless games. I really think Man City are going to clinch the Premier League title before then. I think Arsenal are going to drop points at United just because of the fact that Old Trafford and all that. And I think City will take care of their 2 games that they play against, I believe that they play Fulham and Tottenham, a Tottenham team that are in very bad form. And I think we might be talking about, I think we might enter that last game of the season, and this, Premier League title race might be over, which maybe this is a irresponsible thing to say, especially with how good Arsenal have been this season and how poor United have been up to now. But I just feel like the fact that it's Old Trafford, it's a fortress, United, there's no real motivation. They're still playing for that Europa League, Conference League position, I guess. But, they're the main motivation is they're going to want to end Arsenal's season. But at the same time, would they want to hand the Premier League to City? No, but, it's still Old Trafford. They're not going to take that game. And I think Arsenal, have one more bottle moment left in the season. They bottled it against Villa. They bottled it against Bayern. I think there's one more bottling session left for Arsenal. That's I'm not trying to banter or anything. Arsenal fans, don't hate me. But thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you once again and have a wonderful day.
Mm-hmm.